pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Just for the record, tonight is not a session where we're going to have the public here. This is just an educational forum for us. And the second item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the October 3rd meeting. Has everybody had a chance to look at them? Anybody got any corrections, addendum, anything like that to add to them? So a motion would be in order.
So moved to accept the minutes as appeared shown.
All those in favor?
Oh,
second. All those in favor? Aye. All right. With that, we're going to be discussing the board to discuss proposed accessory dwelling unit ordinance. And I give Bart the floor. Educate us.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Just for the record, I'm Bart McDonough. I'm director in town Newmarket, and tonight I am before you to discuss and the proposed accessory dwelling unit amendments. So, in a nutshell, we have described this. What we're trying to accomplish is to allow for ADUs to exist in different contexts, in many contexts as possible. So for instance, and then also to make it easy for people to have an ADU. So currently as it is, if you want an ADU in Newmarket, you have to go in front of this body for a special exception. And there's criteria for that, and one of the criteria is it has to be attached to the primary dwelling. You need a variance if you want to detach. So for instance, an attached garage, barn, accessory structures. And no portion of the lot can be non-conforming. You have to get another variance for that. So a lot of times in old towns, old Newmarket, there's going to be a lot of non-conformities from lot sizes, from barns that are 200 years old, maybe they'll be renovated. Zoning's changed over the years. So it's really, the way it's written now makes it very prohibitive to build, and not many lots can actually utilize the ordinance as it is without going through, without getting those variances from this body as well. So what this ordinance tries to do is, again, level the playing field and add more property rights to single-family homes by allowing for any single-family lot in town, if it's used that way, to have an accessory dwelling unit, regardless of its conformity. It can be non-conforming from a lot size perspective. Any just non-conforming, but it has to be a single-family lot.
Yeah. Now, was I reading this correctly? They're allowed up to 2.
So that's through the special use permit process with the planning board.
We'll get to that.
Yep. So basically what that ordinance does, so it amends different sections of the ordinance in order to achieve that. So for instance, 32-5 nonconformity, it has an authorization clause to allow accessory dwelling units to be on a non-conforming lot. And then for the 2 ADUs on the lot, special use permit section had to be amended to include that. I just wanted to have more context. Planning board has been reviewing this for the past couple months, so it has evolved a little bit. So it's the language you have in front of you isn't the current. I wanted to give you the language the planning board saw first. A lot of it's more administrative. There's some things that have changed in here that actually planning board decided to allow the square footage to be from 200 to 1,000. So they actually made it more permissive. They're still having that debate on 2 accessory dwelling units. There's a really healthy discussion going on. I encourage you to watch the meetings if you haven't. So that's still up in the air and still has yet to be decided. But they're going bit by bit through this process because we had a lot of other things on the agendas, and they're just being really deliberative about it. And I commend them for their review of this. So, anyways, back to the ordinance. It also has definitions, it clarifies definitions, it takes standards outside the definitions and put them actually in the standards section. So you just have a definition, you not have to jump around and find different standards in different sections of the ordinance for this. So it kind of it creates uniformity, clarity, and it defines some terms as well that make the ordinance more useful and clear. And then again, it has go through the standards. Let's go through what's not allowed there. So right now in Newmarket, you can have a short-term rental. So short-term rental is like an Airbnb, VRBO. Basically, you're leasing your property for a certain amount of time. The way this ordinance is written now is if you have an ADU on your property, you cannot short-term rental either the ADU or the primary dwelling unit. And the reason for that is we don't want to create instances where there may be, a lot of transient people, few vacationers, like that. People, because Newmarket is a great place to visit, it's in a nice location, and the seacoast. You don't want to disturb neighborhoods at the same time. What this ordinance is trying to do is provide housing options for long-term housing solutions. So, as you may know, there's a housing shortage. There's no inventory. There's not that many being built at prices that are affordable. So what this ordinance tries to do is create a space for single-family homeowners to either provide that housing either for their family, friends, whomever, but not for short-term rental.
Can I ask
Yeah.
a quick question? I don't want to get too much further beyond that. So, please correct me if I'm mishearing. Currently, as it stands, if you have a single-family home on I don't know if it's conforming or not conforming, but if you have a single-family home on a lot that is allowed to be used for short-term rental. However, if you had a single-family home and an ADU on the same lot, both structures or both units would then be null and void in that option of doing a short-term rental. Correct.
You can do short-term rental of one of the units.
No.
Neither.
Right.
And in one of my former communities, I had noticed that when we had problems with an ADU ordinance, it said you couldn't short-term rental the ADU. So what people were doing is they were building the ADU, moving into the ADU, and then short-term renting their house. So it's not really providing any sort of affordable housing stock. So this kind of helps negate that. I would say, you have an ADU, you can't do short-term rental.
And it's open for people to use it as an actual housing solution.
Correct.
Exactly.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's what we're trying to strive for.
Yep.
Define a short-term rental.
So we do define it new, it's a new definition to be added. I'll read it verbatim. It's defined right now as
Can
the
you tell
use.
us where you are?
Oh yeah, so page 2, line I believe 47. It might be a little different, but it could be page 1.
Page 1, yeah.
Yep.
Mine
It should be at the bottom.
39. There.
Do you want a copy of what they have?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Sir.
What we have there.
Page 1, line 39.
Thanks. So, the use, control, management, or operation of a dwelling unit or accessory dwelling unit in whole or in part for dwelling, sleeping, or lodging lodging proposed for periods of 30 consecutive days or less for compensation directly or indirectly. So that's how it's proposed right now. The plan board is also discussing this as well, because they thought of some scenarios where some of them just disagree. So I'm not sure where it's going right now, but it's how we, the planning department, envision this ordinance being is, providing those solutions. So the planning board might change the dates. Some of them are more restrictive. Some 90 days, some people have been proposing, so 3 months. That would be considered a short-term rental. Some people will just disagree on the board. So again, that's up in the air too. But for the purpose of this discussion, we entered that definition and that standard, that prohibition, because again, the purpose is to provide more housing options in town.
Maybe I'm running ahead of myself too, but this means that a student at UNH could go in the ADU
That's correct.
and rent.
That's correct. Yep. As it's written right now, yes. So again, we're looking at people are at different stages of their lives, and that means there are different economic stages, different family situations. So we see the ADU as filling that niche, filling that gap from a option that's attainable from a lot different swaths of the community. Another portion of this ordinance that's where we're trying to achieve is, bring community together to create more intergenerational living opportunities, and so because we see, New Hampshire is getting older and older and older, and we need to attract some younger people to come back to the mean. So this is an option for that. That's what this tries to achieve as well. This ordinance.
This actually brings us more in line with what the state planning office has in mind too, for that, the ADUs and stuff.
Right, and the state kind of is driving a little the ordinance, the RSA, especially for attached accessory dwelling units. The state mandates that a single-family home by right is allowed an attached dwelling unit. And the ordinance cannot mandate that it be smaller than 750 square feet. So the state sets that limit, that threshold for minimum size of accessory dwelling unit. Now that state doesn't necessarily prohibit towns saying you have this range, you can go lower. Allow people to build it lower, but you cannot tell them for an attached accessory dwelling unit that has to be smaller than 750 square feet. And as for detached, the state gives discretionary power to the municipalities to regulate them how they see fit.
So a person could propose a tiny house as a detached unit.
As long as the ordinance and the municipality allows for it, that's correct.
That seems nice though. Tiny
Little tiny houses.
Yeah.
Right. So again, there's what this ordinance also tries to do is have some design standards kind of guide, not to take the focus away from the primary dwelling unit, like not having the ADU, be the focal point of the lot. It should, meld in with the lot. It should, blend in with, character of the lot, and whatnot. So this ordinance tries to accomplish that as well, because it wants to be mindful of surrounding properties.
So you can't put a Frank Lloyd Wright ADU next to a 250-year-old colonial.
Right. Yeah. It kind of, yeah. So it has to complement each other.
And who makes that decision?
If it's one, it's Mr. Data, it's zoning.
So he's gonna determine whether architecturally they're compatible or not?
For instance, what
Yeah.
Bob just said, it's a nouveau Bauhaus going in, Dada next to a colonial, doesn't look good. It doesn't. Well, it's not to say it doesn't look good, but it's not matching. It's not complementing each other. So, there could be a blend, there could be some newer architectural elements that complement the character of the primary dwelling unit. So there's some flexibility there, but it's kind of a smell test. Smells bad, something's up.
And like anything else, if Dave comes through and says denied, it just doesn't
It
matter.
comes to this board.
They can come to us.
Exactly.
Gotcha,
Yeah. So there is that adjudicated process.
gotcha, okay. That makes sense.
The size would be from 200 to 1,000.
Correct. Square
What's
feet.
the difference between a 200 square foot ADU and somebody renting out rooms in their house?
So the difference is, an accessory dwelling unit is a self-contained dwelling unit.
Well,
So
you
to have a
could have
place
a
to-
bathroom.
Right, a place to bathe, a place to cook, a place to sleep.
And the other is shared.
So it's its own,
I get, okay, where I'm going is, you can't start a motel in
No.
a house.
Correct.
no, you
And this one, this is for, it's gonna be one, 10 square footage, 2-bedroom, accessory dwelling unit.
Oh, it's a minimum of 2 bedrooms?
No, there's no bedroom count. It's just square footage.
Square footage,
Yeah.
200 to 1,000.
but you only get one. Unless you want two, then you go to planning board, but if you only want the one, it's administrative, and then you can't have a motel type situation pop up, because
Okay.
you would have to have several of those for a motel type situation.
Correct.
And so as part, I get the dwelling units, and the need for real estate. But isn't this gonna promote, I mean, it's what the law is trying to do, but isn't this gonna promote a lot of people to put in an ADU to make money?
Yeah, part of it is that, especially for older folks.
Well, I don't see how you could do that. Well, I see how you can do that, but I don't see that it would be a paying proposition to, it's a long-term
It
investment.
depends on your financial situation.
It's no different than it is now. I mean, now they're gonna come to us and they're gonna prove some kind of hardship, but it's generally not too difficult to prove.
Yeah, they're actually standards, special exceptions, so you
So,
check the boxes.
so it comes right out, it's good to go. So
But
What
let
I
me,
mean is, it's not financially feasible to build these things for profit. What we've seen is mostly, I don't think so, Bob. I mean, to build a place with a kitchen, bath, and a couple rooms, I mean, you're talking a lot of money.
short term, yeah.
So what I'm saying is it certainly can be done, but I don't think it's a real problem that I can see that people are gonna go out and do it for profit.
I do.
Really?
Yeah, buy a prefab,
My-
sure.
My brother just did it. He had a ADU built onto his house for my parents.
Well,
That I do.
there you go.
Bedroom, a kitchen, and a bath. And it passed, and now he's renting it out to traveling nurses,
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Different scenarios, it's kind of,
but he's getting good money for it.
So is there a specific concern that you're looking at?
Well, I mean, I get the providing, this is the planning board's issues, not ours, I shouldn't even be getting into it. But it seems to me that some of us might look at this as an opportunity to do some investment on our property and make some money.
I think that's what the state is thinking.
But not for anybody in particular, I mean, I could do it for UNH students, it would help it.
You know, what I do for you.
No, you see what I'm saying now?
Yeah.
I'm going probably too deep, I apologize.
and also, one of the controls on this too is the property owner has to be living on the property.
Yeah.
So, There can't be any absentee landowner.
Owner occupied.
Owner occupied, correct. So you have that kind of control right there. You know, theoretically, you know, you wouldn't have issues that we find that with other apartment buildings.
They'll send police over their dog and their cat, so that'll be owner occupied.
So could, and again, could an ADU be a mobile home?
So the planning board did, no, not a mobile home, but it could be a prefab and,
Tiny home,
or a tiny home.
Pardon?
could be a tiny home.
Well, that's unbelievable. I mean, so could it be a mobile home?
Well, it has to be building code. So Dave and I had an extensive discussion on this, and what we found is HUD regulates manufactured homes, and I think prefab, right? We had discussion on, okay, you know, let's say we want to avoid attached ADUs to mobile homes. Because you get attached ADUs for mobile homes. We want to avoid that because you have two different standards at play. You have HUD standards that regulate these manufactured homes, and then you have building code, the new attachment.
Yeah.
So the scenario that we saw that made most sense is if there was a prefab home that came with a spec to add on later, then we found that that would work well with the building code. So what we are proposing in this ordinance is it has to be a detached ADU on a lot that is used as a single-family mobile home or a manufactured home.
I'm sorry.
All right, so if you have a mobile home on your lot, if you live in that, you can only have a detached ADU, not a.
Right, no, I get that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to attach. a
Right.
mobile. I get that.
Yeah.
So can I pull a mobile home, like build a foundation around it, and there we go?
It has to be, if it's detached, the way it's written, it has to be smaller than the mobile home, the one that's existing.
Yeah, but I think the question that I'll ask is, I got a 2,000 square foot home,
Right,
I wanna do a detached ADU, can I put a mobile home?
well, that's my question. And I'm gonna put a foundation under it, I'm
Right.
gonna,
And
It has to be the building code,
well, the mobile home, yeah.
not mobile home. That's HUD regulations.
right, but I don't think we addressed that particular.
So,
It can be built on a slab,
Pardon?
you got a slab.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's gonna have to have a foundation and whatnot.
yeah,
but,
no, I agree with
Yeah.
that.
And then it comes back into the standards of, does it complement the
Exactly.
primary structure, does it complement the neighborhood?
You know, it's more the architecture of the primary dwelling. So in that case, it would have to complement the manufactured home.
And then it would also have to be in that square foot parameters.
So I live,
Yes, so there's yes.
I live in Elsa,
Yeah.
but I live in a mobile home. That's my dwelling, and I want to put another mobile home on my property, yes or no? It's within the character of the existing.
So it'd have to be 80% smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Than what you currently.
Right. So I can do it.
Potential.
now is it a mobile home or manufactured home?
Mobile home. I
Now
live
it's
in a mobile home.
manufactured. It's different
Yeah.
standards.
Yeah, that's, I understand, that's why,
So now I can put two mobile homes
I
on.
mean, you see
Provided
manufactured,
you
you see
step back.
manufactured homes.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
all
okay.
over stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Different standard all the time.
You're right.
2 homes on one property.
Yeah.
Ish.
But you put three,
You have to do a plan board for that.
okay,
Yeah.
because you can put two accessory dwellings.
You could,
Plus
oh, so no, three outright, if you had, so you had the primary and 2 ADUs, that's permitted, as long as you have planning board approval,
Right.
cannot have a third. Prohibited.
Well, no, I mean, there would be 3 structures.
Correct.
Yeah, not 3 ADUs, there would be 3 mobile homes
Correct.
with planning board approval.
And the square foot, I mean,
And the second ADU on that lot has to be smaller than the first.
80%, yeah,
It goes, they both have to be 80, so actually it has to be smaller than 80%. So the first one's gonna be, this is detached, So it's gotta be 80% of the square
Yeah.
footage, and then the second one, it's gotta be smaller than the primary, so kind of have the scale down approach,
Russian dolls.
Russian dolls.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and the other thing to keep in mind too, when it comes to detached ADUs, they have to be able to fit on the lot and meet the setbacks.
Right.
So it's not like, oh, I got my lot, I can probably squeeze this one in, but I'm up against the property line. No.
That's a good point. I
Setbacks.
kind of want to touch on that. So the only,
Okay.
yeah, so the only the only difference is if you have an existing structure that violates the setbacks, you can turn that into an ADU with a building permit. If you want to expand in any way, you're coming here for a variance. Or actually might be a special exception.
Yeah.
So,
So basically, if you have like a garage that you're gonna convert into an ADU, but it's in violation of the setback, that's okay. You go ahead and convert that, but as soon as you expand it in any way,
You haven't made it more non-conforming.
correct. You're just changing the internal use.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
but that's for a pre-existing structure.
Right.
If you're adding a structure, then you have to meet your setbacks.
But again, you can't have more than 2 ADUs stay in the same line of prohibitions, go in that section. I'm on page,
Page 3, line 95.
so,
Page 2.
page 3, line.
Right there.
So the plan board's changed this, they got rid of, altogether, doesn't matter if you have a mobile home or not. So if you want to, you can have to, but you need plan board approval. So we got rid of that nuance there. That's on line 95 and 97.
I've asked this before, what's the definition of a manufactured
In our, I don't know if we defined it, but I know that it's after 1978, it's the standards for that type of spec. Before 1978,
So a manufactured home is something that's brought on trailers,
yeah.
has a fixed chassis.
Fixed chassis, that's the,
That's
Yeah,
the
that-
thing, it's got the fixed chassis. So that's
So
different
it
than
can't be
modular.
moved.
no, it can be moved.
Oh, it can,
Right, because the chassis is there, it might be set on
I
blocks, but the
got you,
chassis
I got
is still there.
so that's included in the manufactured.
Right, a modular home is transported on
bulk.
trailers, but it doesn't have the fixed chassis.
Yeah, we do have a definition too in our zoning. And it looks like it, I can read it if you want.
No, that's fine.
You good?
Yeah.
You want it? Okay. So we got manufactured housing means any structure transportable in one or more sections, which in the traveling mode is 8 body feet or more in width and 40 body feet or more in length, or when erected on site is 320 square feet or more, in which is built on a permanent chassis and designated to be used as a dwelling unit, or without a permanent foundation when connected to required utilities, which include plumbing, heating, electrical heating systems contained therein. This shall not include pre-site built housing as defined in RSA 674:31-8. So that's the modular homes.
Yes, that's right. So it's basically treated the same.
Yes. Okay. And then ADUs can't be converted into condominiums, so you can't subdivide it. That's prohibited. And let's see.
Oh, shit, can I look at the sheet, please?
Yes.
There's double ADU and daddy.
Yes. So dadu is detached. And
Oh, attached and
yeah,
detached.
adu
Adu
is
is
attached. Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate it,
Yeah,
excellent.
and there's a couple more down there too. And we'll get there. Okay, and then you can't build in the floodplain. So if you have a new ADU, we're trying to move away from building floodplains. So,
Florida learned that.
Exactly, so learn from our neighbors. Now, yeah, and then it goes through the permitting process, you know, if you want two, planning board, if you want one, you just go to Dave for building permit, and he reviews the zoning, see if there's anything else that may bring that person to this body. And then we go through the standards. The planning board has simplified this. I don't have it all in writing, but they basically just wanted more concise and not really going into minutia as it is right now, as descriptive. So they just wanted from 200 to 1,000 square feet. You allowed an ADU in any form you want. So that's internal conversion. It could do detached, or it could do detached. So.
But that 80% of the principal dwelling is in the.
Yeah, they're still debating that. They're thinking maybe getting rid of that.
So not having any requirement involved?
Just between certain square footage.
Oh,
Yeah. So between 200 and 1,000.
that's right, preventing a 5,000 square foot house from having a 4,000 square foot.
Well, it would be capped at 1,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Unless you had a 4,000 square foot barn, then you could convert it. That's pre-existing.
Yeah.
So they're also having discussion on, well, is there an opportunity for, right now the zoning, this proposed zoning prohibits if you're applying for two, the primary and secondary ADU from being in the same building, a detached building. It can be inside the primary dwelling unit, okay? But you can't be in the same barn, or say if you have a pre-existing barn or you're building a new barn, you can't put them both in the same building. But planning board is saying, well, why is that? Maybe we want to have that, so they're still having that debate. And my thought through that process is, it may create, kind of like apartment feeling. We're trying to avoid. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but I was just trying to think of the community itself and different scenarios, in the community's past as well. And so I was just writing this ordinance in order to, make sure there was enough space in between units if there was going to be detached units. Anyways, so I don't get any questions on standards. Again, then there's additional standards for two dwelling units, ADUs. This is page 4. We'll talk about parking. So for one ADU, it's being proposed that you can have a maximum of one space. So it basically gives discretion to the landowner if they want to provide more parking. If you're looking for two, you have to provide a minimum of 2 spots. So the idea is, in a lot of single-family homes. Grab the clicker. Did I leave the clicker over here, Dave?
Don't believe you did.
No. Somewhere. So I did these maps of where all the single-family lots are in town, and a lot of them are in the R1 zone right here. So it highlighted in black are all the single-family lots of record. Okay, so they have, it's 52% of all single-family homes in Newmarket are in the R1 zone, which you see right here. So, and then.
That makes sense, that's what's there for.
Yep. And interestingly enough, from a lot size perspective, 59% of them are non-conforming.
Given how old Newmarket is, that's not surprising.
Exactly. And the zoning has changed. Yeah.
It'll be almost 3 years.
So again, kind of circling back to the, these lots have existed in many different, exist for a long time, and the zoning is really not allowing for 59%, at least in this zone, to have an ADU.
You read some of the old deeds that are around, it's kind of hilarious,
Yeah.
the triple king pines near the thread of the brook, and
Exactly. So again, so I put these maps together for the planning board just to show where potentially ADUs could exist in town.
And they're in black?
In black, correct. So the color lots are the zoning district. So for instance, right here, the M2 zone, which is near us. And there are 45 single-family homes in the M2 zone. And, you know, so you wouldn't see a lot in downtown, say if this all maxed out. You know, see 45 ADUs in the M2. In the M2A zone, you only see 12. If it were to max out. You know, I don't see many people going for 2. Because again, you do the planning board process, there'll be more scrutiny, it's a higher threshold, so we're gonna look at it more holistically. I'm not saying that we're not right now, but, you know, it gets more complicated when you add more than one ADU. And we wanna make sure butters are notified when they have their say too, if they're added to. So in the B3 zone, again, only 13 single family homes. I just wanna put a caveat here, this is based on the data from the assessor, so there could be some.
but this is kind of an administrative decision, so that the public wouldn't necessarily have a say in a single ADU.
Correct.
It's just basically a rubber stamp.
Correct. Dave, correct me wrong in procedure, can someone appeal a building permit?
Okay.
Yep. So they wouldn't be notified, but if they knew that a building permit was pulled, they can come in and appeal it, and it would go to this body.
I'll go to this one.
Be interesting to see what they come up with for a reason why, but anyway.
So there is
Oh, the
that,
character.
yeah, the character.
Well, hopefully it hasn't gotten that far.
Well, Dave would probably look at architecturals and see what's this gonna look like,
Right,
you know, before.
And compared to the house
What's
that's on the
existing.
lot.
yeah, you disagree.
I can see,
Right.
some nuisance people coming in and saying, I'm gonna challenge it.
And Newmarket? No, there's not that many used people. Well, let me ask you, how many bills have you heard from issues in the
I want to talk on the financing piece of this too, because I think it's really important. And Wayne brought up a good point, I think earlier. You're not going to see a lot of these come online really quickly once they're built, because it's really difficult to finance accessory dwelling units. There are no financial lending packages that accommodate an accessory dwelling unit. So
Except mom and dad.
Right.
So you would either need to have cash in hand or home equity.
Yeah.
That's the only way this can
Yep.
be built.
Yep.
So, you know, we are looking to have conversations with different people and see if there's any opportunity in the banking world. I know they're having these conversations too of trying to figure out what accessory dwelling is, because it's not a dwelling unit, so how do they apply it? So it is really tricky to finance. It's actually black and white, but it's really hard, I should say, to finance. So that's why I think it'll be really difficult. Well, let me put it this way, I don't anticipate a proliferation of accessory dwelling units.
Yeah, I don't see somebody coming in and buying a single family home and then immediately putting up an ADU.
Right, so it might be easier to do internal conversion, you know, that's an option. Maybe you see more of those than an attachment, you know, you bumping out the lot, or you converting a garage, that'd probably be more cost effective than say, you know, building an addition or building a whole different dwelling unit. So that's why I think you're gonna see these existing structures be renovated. And this is what we're trying to do too, is, well, reuse existing structures. You know, because a lot of the energy of a house's life is that construction. So what we want to do is use what we have. A lot of the energy used to build a house is when it's being constructed throughout its whole life. So you think about all where the materials come from. Yeah, so thinking, you know, a little more holistically, and we want to reuse the structures that we have in town. So maybe we have some nice barns that need some sprucing up, and this is an opportunity, or, you know, whatever, garage. So again, trying to kind of, that Yankee mentality, use what we have, be a little more thrifty and, then, tearing down and building new. Maybe sometimes that's gonna make sense, don't get me wrong. But again, this ordinance tries to, allow for that to happen.
And one of the things I've seen is a lot more conversions of existing spaces into accessory dwelling units than the construction of a new structure for it.
So that's what I think you're gonna see. More than anything else, the new construction, because everyone knows how much it costs. It's outrageous right now.
Are there communities that have changed their ordinance to reflect what we're trying to do? And what kind of history can they provide us in terms of it?
Yeah, so there's only a couple I know. I just know where one that had allowed for 2 accessory dwelling units, that's Dover. And they don't see, as many, I don't have the data in front of me, but based on anecdotal, word of mouth, just conversations, is Dover, there's not many you've seen 2, you've seen a lot of 1 units, but second unit in Dover has to be affordable housing, so they have a mandate.
Gotcha.
And I thought about introducing that to Newmarket too, but what I thought would be better is the community has a conversation on affordable housing first before any type of mandates happen. So my thought was to allow for lower square footage and have the market price that in. And if it's lower square footage, you think you're gonna pay less. If you have more square footage, you're gonna pay more. Until we have the Newmarket has that conversation and establishes a zoning ordinance, honestly, for inclusion in zoning, I just don't think this ordinance should put something in there that requires it. So,
Affordable housing can be workforce housing and stuff can be very controversial.
again, and that's why it needs a lot of conversation in the community before anything is put on the books or proposed to be codified.
I was a trustee of the church in Exeter, and the first workforce housing unit that went in over there caused a whole stir.
Yeah.
And we were kind of involved in the decision. We were in favor of it, but they were direct abutters to us. So.
Well, I think the we're on that topic. What is the main problem is the definition. What is it? What is affordable housing? What is workforce housing? The state has a definition, but it's always changing. There's no common vernacular. Everyone has different perceptions of it too. And that's why it's really important to have these community conversations on what does it mean for your market.
Workforce housing and affordable housing are 2 different things.
But they can be,
At the
crossed.
same
Right.
They're crossed in my mind.
Right.
I mean, I couldn't adequately define the difference.
Right. And that's why it's really important to have these conversations.
Right. Right.
So everyone understands what everyone's talking about, or we have common vernacular to use when we're discussing projects or zoning change.
Workforce housing has a tax benefit side to it.
Yeah, as of right now, yes, especially this New Hampshire Invest program. So you're seeing that as well as being incentivized. But again, it's really important for the community to come together and agree upon certain standards of workforce housing or affordable housing or inclusionary zoning before anything is introduced into the zoning to mandate it. So, so that's why I didn't put that in. But I think it's really important. It's just we just haven't had the conversation as a community in the form of zoning language. Sure, it has come up, but not in this type of language. So, any questions? Good. So additional standards, some open space. Basically, the idea is to preserve open space on lots. And if you can't meet any of the open space requirements, then you're going to meet stormwater requirements. That's codified. So the idea is to have open space for infiltration purposes, for recreation purpose, for passive recreation purposes and stormwater purposes. We're more concerned about stormwater, so if you can't meet that, that's why we want this open space. So if you can't meet it, then you gotta prove to Jake that you need stormwater regs, and we go from there, so that's, we wanna protect the town from that perspective, so we don't overbuild a lot. It's really interesting that Newmarket doesn't have a lot coverage standard. The only place where there is one is in the aquifer protection. So,
And what does that mean?
meaning building coverage, or impervious surface, some communities, so, a lot of communities say you can only have a maximum of, let's say, 50, like, just throwing a number, 50% of your lot can be covered by buildings, the rest has to be.
What if there is no standard, we have them?
You can max it out if you want to, 100%. But what the workaround is right now is the stormwater. So these are for redevelopment projects or 2,500 square feet, and you gotta meet some standards. But pre-existing. Anyways, any question on open space? And then, just design standards, building design standards. Try to make sure it complements the existing, has some standards on fire escape, where you be located. And parking as well, and then water and sewer provided. Interestingly enough, DES for septic systems, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, mandates that for an ADU, your septic system has to be designed for a bedroom and a half instead of one bedroom. So they put the burden, they basically up the requirements for an ADU, and they treat it, and then say if you add another
They also
dwelling
treat it
unit.
differently than the whole dwelling unit as well.
Right, so maybe you can elaborate a little on that, Dave.
So, for permit for wastewater, there are standards for gallons per day. I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but when you're putting in a new dwelling unit, you have to have a system designed for a dwelling unit, which is X amount of gallons per day, and then they tack on a number of bedrooms on top of that to get a total number of, let's say, 900 gallons per day or whatever. What they're saying with this is if you have on septic and you're adding an ADU, you just have to design the septic for an additional 1.5 bedrooms, not for a whole nother dwelling unit. So that allows the property owner to put in a small field, not spend as much money, and updating their septic system. That's most of that. So.
They treat it a little bit different than.
Treated a little bit differently than an actual dwelling unit. And they also treat it a little bit differently than if you are adding a bedroom or 2 bedrooms to your home. They're saying, well, you're doing an ADU with 1 bedroom, so you have to design it for 1.5 additional bedrooms.
So, can the ADU have more than one bedroom?
Okay.
So it's three, I got it.
Yeah.
So it'd be 3 times the 2 bed, I got it. Okay.
Right. Instead of a whole new dwelling unit plus 2 bedrooms, now you're just saying, okay, it's a 2-bedroom ADU, so it's an additional 3 bedrooms to the system that we get account for.
So they bump it up, basically a room.
Yeah.
That's state mandated.
Right, and with any kind of additions or development that are on septic, they have to submit a septic design done by a site evaluator, so.
You're not saying you have to have a separate system for.
No, it can be the same one
But
system.
it needs to be
It has to be added to the
size
size.
for that.
Yes, correct.
So what's the theory behind that?
I'm not sure. Because I have seen it in other states where they treat an ADU as an actual dwelling unit, not as this 1.5 bedroom cosmos. So, I don't really know the reason behind it, but.
That's right.
That's always fun. This one.
Yeah, I guess we can go to two ADUs right now, just standards there. So the standards, you have to designate one as a primary and secondary, and the secondary has to be smaller than the primary ADU. Then and then the ADU has to be separated. Planning board changed this a little bit. They just say, so they got rid of the minimal separation of 10 feet, and they say, well, let's just stick to building code and FPA code instead of for detached units. So a detached, they just wanted to. So my idea here is to keep some separation between a detached accessory dwelling unit. So I just said minimum 10 feet, but planning board said, well, let's just keep building code. Or building code, 20 feet. So it's actually more restrictive. Think about that, and then again, two parking spaces are required on the lot to get to, and it has a special exception to the planning board. So just in closing, major takeaways are this ordinance allows for more, expands where ADUs can be on single-family lots, and regardless of their conformity, and it can be internally, it can be attached or detached, and it's just through a building permit, so we're simplifying the building the process to allow for ADUs. And if you want two ADUs, go to the planning board, and there's certain standards that the applicant will have to meet during the review.
And I can do is if you have a manufactured home, you can't make
Correct.
an ADU inside a manufactured home, which I'm guessing also means a mobile home.
Correct.
Okay, right. So it has to be a
Detached.
In order to do the internal conversion, it has to just be a regular house.
Correct.
Okay, right.
If you would, you said the ADU without regard to conformity, can you?
If it's a pre-existing structure. So for instance, these
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Barn. or-
barn. But if your lot's undersized, you can still build it, but you have to meet the setbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's only existing, got it.
Yeah. Pre-existing non-conforming, legally non-conforming.
Yep, yep.
So somebody can put up a barn before all this goes into play, and then they can convert it then?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Well, that barn.
They can't build it right now,
Okay.
Yeah.
because they have
Right.
to meet setbacks, so they
They could though. Yeah, they have to meet setbacks and everything. But say if they built that
something
barn.
built back in the '60s.
Sure.
They want to convert it into an ADU.
Okay.
But
It's
theoretically,
2 feet off the property line. They're not expanding it. They're not going up or horizontal expansion.
so that barn would be in conformity. It's just changing the use at that point of this for the past.
They can't build something that's gonna make a lot non-conforming, but if a lot is non-conforming, they can still make use of the structure that's on site.
That sounds right. Okay.
Because they're not increasing non-conformity.
Right.
Correct.
They did.
Doesn't that do it?
Yeah.
Correct.
I think we're good.
We deny
Yeah.
And
So
the way it affects this board is that we're not affected,
no,
not
you're not.
involved.
So you're saying this meeting is
We have less
So-
work.
Yeah, so the ZBA is taking out this process unless there's a special exception or variance request.
So no
We're
joke, I
seeing
learned a
less
lot.
often.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and any comments after this meeting, if you don't have, you want to send over to the planning board and have to do share.
Because we've done quite a few accessories.
Yeah, there's been like 40 since 2000 at the ZBA.
Is that right?
Yeah. A couple were denied, well, a couple required variances that were denied, those were detached.
We denied one
Brad and I,
on
yeah,
Street.
and,
Mitchell's place.
Lang, I think Lang.
Up on Bald Hill.
Now, would they, under these new regulations, have been approved?
Yes, the one on Bald Hill.
Definitely the one on, the Mitchell property on Elm Street, top of Elm Street, yeah, that would have been approved in a heartbeat.
And it was denied because,
It wasn't attached, it was not attached, it was detached.
Remember the one on Bald
Gotcha.
Hill? that was detached.
Gotcha, okay.
Is that the one with the mother-in-law trying to move in the barn kind of thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep. So
They
that,
had it as a wood shop or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would have been an easy check mark under this now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So they would then not be allowed to reapply, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, just building permit at that point.
And when standards change, there's nothing that says that somebody can't reapply for something that was previously denied.
Cool, on paper,
Yeah, so, any other questions? What we have?
I think we're good.
Thank you very much.
I'm good.
Yeah, thank you, and thank Dave as well, he had his hand in this as well, you know. So, it was a good collaborative effort.
Is that unusual in this day and age to have things made easier and more permissible?
Well, I
I
agree
think-
with your statement of the property rights.
Yeah,
It,
I,
gives a lot more flexibility for.
If you want to control what's going on a piece of property,
buy it.
So we're just trying to afford the opportunity to people.
Good.
Right?
Go to
Thank you.
Go to Washington, good.
What are you trying to do to me? Thank you very much, for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
and, that being said, move to adjourn in order.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of adjournment?
I.
Okay, we're at 7:58.